You think about an election, and Barbara can speak to this more, the policies that are going to be imposed by the next president are going to have a 10, 20, 30-year impact. And that's going to be on all of their lives, and our lives is true. And I know that it's inside baseball when I talk about the Supreme Court and the courts. Well, you saw what happened the other day, how important it is. I mean, it's really important as to who gets to select those members of the U.S. Supreme Court. And probably the next president will make at least 2 appointments. And it may be 2 appointments that he already has, but you want to make sure the next appointments will be here for the next 40 years. And to show you how important this is, when Clarence Thomas was selected, I wrote an article at the time, and I said that Clarence Thomas is going to be an albatross around the black community for the next 40 years. Well, we only got 20 down, right? And that only shows you how important it is. The president's appointed 2 women to the court, and they're both in their 40s, all right? So they get 30 years, 20 to 30 years, all right? And so right now, there are 2, Ginsburg probably is going to leave. You know, she's been sick, and she's been a strong person, she's been a warrior, but at some point in time, she has to step aside. And so the next president gets to appoint her replacement. And if it's the Democrat, then he may appoint someone like her, or like mine. And if it's not, well, then the swing vote may go to a conservative, and it might, instead of being 5 to 4, it could be 6 to 3. And so it's, and for us as lawyers, 40% of the federal judiciary turns over every 8 years. These people have lifetime appointments, and they make critical decisions about everyday lives. And so, you know, the importance of the presidency cannot be understated in terms of its vastness and the impact that it has on our lives. And you know, I know in every election everyone says that is the most important election of their day. It is, in fact, the most important election of our day, because the president will determine the future of this country for a long time to come. And believe me, if you look at the health care issue, and Barbara could talk to this, you know, if the president wins, health care will be here for 40 years. They'll be talking about Obamacare 40 years from now like they talk about Medicare. If he doesn't win, there's going to be a fight about whether or not it sustains itself. So those are just legitimate issues that I can entertain questions later, but Barbara's come a long way. She is doing this as a personal favor to me, and I'm so happy to see her. So I know it was tough. It's been a rough week back in Washington, and she stood tall this past week. Tall.
Well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's good to be home, out of the storms on all fronts. And John, let me just thank you and Cheryl and all of you again for staying the course. Because this is, and yeah, it is the most important election of our lifetime, I really believe. And what you're doing, what you did help Barack Obama win, and what you're doing now will help Barack win. And I saw he and Michelle this week, and I keep saying, yeah, well, you know, you got to come to Oakland, but we understand it if you don't. And they told me to say thank you to everyone here, because they know that we're raising money here for them. Michelle came last few years, probably 6 months last year, and they know the importance of what you're doing here. And they also know that Nevada's right next door. And so OFA and what we're doing here in California not only is important in terms of raising money, but if any of you could go to some of the states, the marginal states in Nevada, let's get to Nevada and help. Steve Horsford's running for Congress there. The president is, the numbers are very close there, but that is a state that he can win. But it's going to take all of us to do that. So thank you so much for what you're doing. This is, boy, there's so much, but I'll just try to say a couple of things, then you can ask me questions if you'd like. But John, I'm so glad you laid out the Supreme Court and what took place this week, because what a difference an election makes. First, we lost the House in 2010 because of health care and the Tea Party. That's why we lost. And the Supreme Court upheld the Affordable Care Act. It's so important that we have Supreme Court justices who really understand the Constitution and equal justice for all. Several of them don't. Uncle Tom does. You know, we know that. And so it's extremely important just the election, the consequences, understanding the consequences of election. As it relates to the health care bill, let me tell you, if Barack Obama does not win, and if the Senate goes into the Tea Party hands, and if Mitt Romney wins the White House, that is the end of health care reform in this country. It won't even be a fight. They'll just repeal it, and that's over with. And this bill and this law is so important, and I was chairing the Black Caucus during the first 2 years of his presidency, and I helped write that bill. And I'm going to tell you, for the African American community, communities of color, for the poor, for children, it's 50 years ahead of where we would be had Barack Obama not been elected. We had the expansion of community clinics in there. We have now a National Office of Minority Health. We have provisions for the expansion of community clinics. Of course, children can stay on their parents' insurance plan until they're 26. No thank you. I'm sure some of you are feeling that already. Feeling that low. No pre-existing condition. I mean, you can't deny coverage now for children with pre-existing conditions come 2014. Adults also. We have provisions in that bill which will not allow your premiums to soar. We have provisions in there where, you know, being a woman has been a pre-existing condition and a reason for denial of coverage. 15 states have domestic violence. If you're a victim of domestic violence and tried to get insurance in 15 states, you could not get insurance if you were a woman. You could not get insurance. We expanded, and you know HIV and AIDS is off the scale here in my district and throughout the country. Well, we expanded testing, care, treatment for high-risk populations in that bill. And so the Congressional Black Caucus, Hispanic and Asian Pacific American Caucus, we got provisions in there that are unheard of. And that story hasn't been told. But let me tell you, that bill and what that law has done for closing disparities and helping those who have been shut out of this healthcare system get in now and live a decent, healthy life, it's remarkable. And so we've got to elect the president once again for not only what he has done, but what he will do and what could happen if he's not reelected. Secondly, you need to know what's taking place in D.C. with regard to Eric Holder. I mean, this is a horrible, it's a witch hunt, it's a miscarriage of justice. And I went to the Congressional Black Caucus last week, and we put together a plan, and I felt that we should not vote no even on the contempt charge. It was so ludicrous. And so we decided, and I was very proud of the Black Caucus because, you know, there were a few who decided, oh no, I want to vote no. I said, no, you don't engage in a process that's so ruthless and so wrong. So by participating, by voting no even, you're participating in a corrupt process. So I finally got them all on board. I bet you did. It was tough. But let me tell you, then we went to the Hispanic Caucus and the Asian Pacific American Caucus. They all got it right away. Then we went to the Democratic Caucus. Nancy got it right away. And it was a sight to behold. When they called that vote, we just walked out. We just walked out. We said, no way, no way. And then, I know initially the administration was a little nervous about that, but we said, hey, this is not just about you. This is about a process that has been corrupt and ruthless. It's illegal. It's wrong. They want him to turn over material that would make it unlawful for him to turn over material. It'd be a crime if he turned over some of this stuff. Wiretaps, for example. You know, things that are clearly, so believe you me, it's an uphill battle, but I think that you've seen this is just another one of their tactics. They're mad because Eric Holder is going after voter suppression efforts that are taking place in many states. They're trying to deny people the right to vote, senior citizens, people of color. They're passing all these voter ID laws, and the Justice Department is taking them on with a vengeance. You know, they're taking them on, and the right-wing Tea Party does not like it, and so they're out to get Eric Holder, but we're not going to let that happen. We're not going to let it happen. But that just shows you again that what Mitch McConnell said a couple of years ago, that their first priority was to make sure that Barack Obama was a one-term president. That's their first priority. They don't care about jobs, they don't care about the economy, they don't care about anything except defeating this first African-American president. Hey. That's their goal. Finally, let me just say, I'm on the DNC. There are 3 of us in the Black Caucus on the DNC. Congresswoman Maxine Waters, Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson from Texas, and myself. And so actually I'm going to the headquarters July 30th in Chicago. And we have a chance to look from the inside of these maps. And there are 6 or 7 scenarios that will ensure that Barack Obama wins. But each and every one of those scenarios and maps are close. I mean, I'm telling you as a member of the DNC, sometimes it scares me how close it is. And so what we have to do is what you're doing today, and that is raise money, more money, more money. And secondly, commit yourselves to going in to some of these states and to helping, or even we're going to be phone banking. Last time around, I actually had my grandchildren come up from Los Angeles, and we had a children's get out to vote effort where the weekend before the election, we were in downtown Oakland calling into Florida.
Right.
So we were phone banking into Florida from Oakland. So we can be creative on how we work this. And it's so important that you hear this early, because this is June, July. We only have a few months to go, but we have to rev the troops up, we have to rally the forces, and we have to make sure that we're solid here in the East Bay and in Northern California. And John, you're doing such an unbelievable job in holding the fort down on this fundraising. Thank you again very much. So good to see you. Good to see all of you. If you have any questions, I'll run.
Any questions for the Congresswoman? Here, one.
What about those of us who have student loans? Do you think there's going to be some kind of policy made in terms of, especially if you teach in inner city schools or urban schools, where we don't make the kinds of salaries at universities?
Well, let me tell you, this year, no. Not with, we can't get anything done. You saw what a struggle it was, and we came up on this deadline. That's why we're so late getting out yesterday, voting to just make sure that the interest rates didn't go up tomorrow. And that was a dogfight just to do that. And so between now and November, I don't see much happening at all on any front. But teachers deserve to have either their loans retired or forgiven. And we've been pushing for that. Teachers, social workers, other public sector employees, they deserve that. You don't make enough money anyway. You've got the future in your hands, and so you should be, the teachers should be, I think, the highest paid profession in our country. I believe it. And so, yeah, and I'm on the Appropriations Committee, the subcommittee that funds teacher education, that funds all of our education programs. There's only one African-American woman on that. Jesse Jr. and myself are on that subcommittee. And we've been fighting hard to do what you said, but we don't have the votes right now. This last election just took away everything. Okay.
Barbara, one question on the health care bill. The Republican playbook now is that this is just a tax, and the tax is going to go up for everyone, middle class voters, which is not true. And can you explain to everyone what this tax really is?
Yeah, it's not a tax, but let me tell you, and I think Justice Ginsburg wrote the dissenting view on what this really is. You know, Justice Roberts, you know, he's a conservative, right? And so he gave them that argument to use. And don't listen to Fox and the language and the buzz that's out there and the chatter, because this is not a tax. This is to level the playing field. Everyone will be required to have health insurance. It's fair. The emergency room, as you know, emergency rooms are primary care, you know, hospitals for most people who are poor. This will stop that. It will stop taxpayers from paying for emergency room care, which is horrendous on your tax dollars. Secondly, this health care bill creates millions of jobs. You know, I personally support single-payer Medicare for all. So this is, you know, but it's an industry, and the jobs that are going to be created out of this industry are enormous. And finally, it's going to reduce the deficit. So this is not, in the traditional sense, a tax. And Justice Ginsburg wrote that and it laid it out. But I think the Republicans, and since, you know, Justice Roberts wrote it that way, he gave them something that they could campaign on, and something that the conservatives could use to try to, you know, do what they have to do politically.
Thank you. Thank you.
Couple questions.
Congressperson. Oh.
Yeah. On the Affordable Care Act, it sounds as though the states will have the option not to expand Medicare, even though it's being, or Medicaid, even though it's being paid for. by the federal government. And it looks like the states that are threatening not to expand are some of the very poor states. What's your take on
Yeah,
this?
we're going to have to go back to the drawing board on that. I quite frankly think that was a terrible decision on that. What is happening now, you know, Medicaid, we raised it to 133% of poverty. States will get this money to ensure those who are under 133% of poverty. There's some states with Republican governors who don't even want that money, who are going to turn that money back because they do not want to provide health care for the poor. It's really pretty insidious. And with the Supreme Court now saying that you can't penalize states that don't accept it, we're going to have to figure out how we can ensure that there's coverage for low-income and poor individuals. That's a big part of the bill that the Black Caucus worked on very hard just to get it to 133% of poverty. And we're going to have to now, you know, maybe we'll get rid of the penalty provision and provide some incentives. I don't know, but we definitely, after Brock is reelected, have to go back to the drawing board on that. Because there are states that are going to just say, we don't want this money. But on the other hand, states that do that, hopefully our state, we'll see people moving to California. Maybe we'll see more African Americans moving to California, moving back.
Right. Congressperson Lee, first of all, I'd like to welcome you to our home. Thank you for taking the time to come through and spend some time with us. I had a comment and also a question. The comment really was about affordable health care. You know, as a doctor in America, one of the things that many people probably are not aware of is how the current healthcare system impacts research. Countries that have universal health care do much better research in medicine, much better research in cardiology, psychiatry, because they have a much greater database. And we lose that because women aren't included in our research, people of color are not included in our research, and it makes a difference. The question I wanted to ask you was with President Obama in his second year, looking ahead, looking after, what does it mean to have someone like you representing us, and to have President Obama in that second?
Well, thank you very much for that, but thank you for this. Your home is beautiful, and the weather's wonderful. Oakland sometimes it's kind of cold.
Yeah, we were lucky. We had heaters. Yeah, we were not going this morning.
Right.
Yeah.
But what it means, first of all, we did establish a National Institute of Minority Health, a national institute, like the National Institute of Health, NIH, okay?
Right.
That's in the Affordable Care Law now. Clinical trials, all the research as it relates to people of color, communities of color, has been really pathetic in this country. And so the president is going to force this institute to be funded, and I'm on the subcommittee that funds it. Okay, I'm on the Labor, Health, Human Services Subcommittee, which funds NIH. It will fund the National Institute of Minority Health. It funds all of our education, labor, all those programs. And again, on that subcommittee, you have, this time around it was shrunk because of the Tea Party. And so on that subcommittee, the only people you have is Rosa DeLauro from Connecticut. All these people are fighters, and they support everything the Black Caucus and Tri-Caucus stands for. You have Lucille Roybal Allard out of Los Angeles, who's Latina. Right. You have Jesse Jackson Jr. from Chicago. And you have myself.
Right.
And so it's like the weight of the world is on our shoulders, but trust me,
I'm not worried about it.
If we win, when we win in November, and when the president wins, and we have the Senate, we'll be able to forge ahead on funding issues as it relates to healthcare disparities and research for people of color.
Right there.
How does it look to take back the House?
My question.
Yeah, well, 25, drive to 25. It looks, I'm saying I'm cautiously optimistic because we have several members who are retiring. And those members who are retired, first we have to keep those seats. And some of them are in marginal seats. And then we have to pick up 25. We have some wonderful candidates, like in Nevada, for example, Steve Horsford. He's president pro temp now of the Nevada State Senate, African-American. Actually, I just talked to him a few minutes ago. He wants some money, June 30th, for his deadline. So he's got a good district. And with the super PAC money coming in against Shelley Berkeley, who's running for Senate, it could affect him, but if we work it right, it won't affect him, and he should be able to win. We have several seats in California we should be able to pick up. We have several seats in, we have another African-American woman, Joyce Beatty, out of Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. Her district looks good in terms of Democratic registration. So we're picking up Val Dennings out of Florida, former police chief of, I'm not sure if it was Jacksonville or Orlando, African-American woman, former police chief. Tough sister, Val Dennings. Val should win. So we have some really good candidates throughout the country who should be able to pull this off. New York. And so I'm part of the team that's going out there and doing this fundraising and trying to help these candidates win. But the terrain in terms of Citizens United now and the corporate funding of campaigns has really muddled up this mess. You know, we need public financing of campaigns. Right now, these super PACs and these corporate donations, which are now based on a Supreme Court decision, they're people, right? They have free speech. So we're faced with an onslaught of mega bucks coming in, which could hurt some of the people that we're supporting. So it's cautiously optimistic, but believe you me, I barely sleep at night for trying to help everybody, and we have all our members doing that.
So you mentioned a job creation aspect to the healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
The conservative element of the country says that it's a job killer, and so in a soundbite, we're going to hear this is a tax, this is a job killer. How would you, instead of just saying it's going to create jobs, what are the kind of things can we use in a quick response to try and kind of stop that level of idiocy?
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. The only thing we can do is say you're lying. They're lying. You know, but I mean, really, it does create jobs, you know, and it will cover, your insurance rates won't go up and it will cover it. I mean, it's hard to make, when you have that kind of money on Fox News telling those kind of lies, you just have to come back and just say, these are the facts. But we have to craft a message that's as short as theirs.
Right.
As short as theirs. And the only way I can say is they're lying, this is a job creator, and don't believe what they say. You know, it's got to be something, because healthcare is one of the industries of the future. I mean, this is where the jobs are now as a result of this bill. So I don't know, we've got to educate people about the types of jobs, the fact that a lot of these jobs don't require PhDs or MDs. These are jobs right out of high school, voc ed, community college type of jobs. These are good paying jobs that are being created out of this. So we're going to have to craft a message to counter their job killer. And
yeah, it's a soundbite election.
Yeah.
We need something.
Something that, yeah, we work on message every day. Yeah, Democrats aren't very good at that.
Any others?
Thank you for being here today. This is grassroots efforts at its best. I thank Dr. Woods and Mr. Burris and yourself for being here. My name is Annette Walker and I'm running for Hayward School Board this year. As a candidate, I understand that campaign finance and funding is a must-do. This is a fundraiser. I came here with a blank check today because I understand what it means to raise money. But can you share with us all just a little bit more of where our money is going? I think there's a disconnect between our culture and our community, and when we write checks, where that money is going. And when we understand how that money is being spent, I think we're more apt to give. So can you just share a little bit more? Since this is a fundraiser, tell us where that money is
portion. That's a very good question, because a large portion of the money goes to media buys. I mean, it's outrageous, the kind of money that is being paid to radio stations, newspapers, TV stations to buy media, because in most states, the media market is what it is. So that's 80% of what you're funding. Secondly, these offices, for instance, in Nevada, there must be 10 OFA offices all over the state. I mean, this costs money. Mail. You know, I have a campaign, and people want to know why I have to raise money. I said, well, I have 100,000 new people I have to communicate with. Yeah, we do social media, but darn, I got a mail, and the post office isn't going to give me a break, and the printer's not giving me a break, and the phone company's not giving me a break at PG&E, and we have to have offices. So hardcore administrative operational expenses your money goes for, and this is for a national campaign. It's very, very, very expensive. And then the other piece that you need to know is I chair the task force for diversity for the DNC, Democratic National Committee, Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, Organizing for America, and the convention. And so all the money, and this is the first time this has happened, we've come up with goals for minority participation, for vendors, and for employment. And that's why I'm going to OFA in Chicago to headquarters, make sure everything's on track. Because historically, businesses of color and our minority-owned companies haven't benefited from all this money. But now you should see the numbers for the convention. I'm really, because we have to fight like crazy to get goals and timetables and all that in place. But we have that in place, so you can be confident that the diversity piece of the campaign on all fronts is covered. But we're fighting hard to keep it covered. And so that's another part of what we're doing with the Black Caucus. I have a 9-person task force out of CBC, and we're doing this for the Hispanic, Asian Pacific American Caucus, for women, LGBT community, veterans, the whole bit. And so your money's going also to, do the right thing.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good to see everybody.
I wanted to say that for all of you should know, the Congresswoman, it is a great honor for her to come and participate with us because she is doing constant campaigning, fundraising for herself. That she has to help other candidates. She's on various committees, which I learned that when you're on these big committees, it's not free. They don't appoint you just because they like you. In order to stay, you have to bring money. So she has to raise a large sum of money all the time, and so all of us should understand and appreciate that when she makes the call, you have to answer the call. Because Barbara is a real treasure for not only us, but for the nation as well. And when the issue is controversial, we know that Barbara's going to come out on the right side of that issue, defending the rights of people, everyday people. So she's our Congresswoman, and we're very happy. A couple points I want to follow up on, though. I was expecting another person to come from the Hayward City Council who said he was going